Welcome back to this reading vlog of The Darkness That Comes Before by R. Scott Bakker. Today we're talking about chapter 11, or I'm talking about chapter 11. You guys should talk about chapter 11 in the comments too. This is the final chapter in the harlot part, the part that is called the harlot. It was an okay chapter. There's some really weird stuff that happens toward the end. It begins with Proyas, one of my least favorite characters. He meets up with Comphis and they're just talking about holy wars, you know, et cetera, politics. Not really what interests me a whole lot in this book. These are the moments that I get, I think, the most bored. But it is noted, though, that Comphis, again, he is quite the figure, because Proyas found it difficult not to be impressed, even faintly awed by his presence. Ooh, Comphis is quite the figure. But this scene ends with, Drusius Acamian is here. Uh-oh. And we go to Acamian. He's hanging out by this fire. But what does he do? He starts thinking about Enrao. He's constantly thinking about Enrao and Esmenet and lamenting both of them and his relationship to them. But the coolest thing about this one is this man. He's in this market and he sees this man. And I remember he picks up this reflective platter and he's kind of looking at himself, but he's using it as a rear view mirror. But then he saw the man again, apparently haggling with the sausage seller. And we're also shown the Xerius's obelisk, right? So this chapter to me is really all of these people are coming together. All these factions, all of these characters are starting to meet in the middle. And I can understand why Bakker didn't want to focus too much more on Acamian and Esmenet, because he had to start tying all these things together, because we are heading toward the end of the book. But east of the temple stood a towering scaffold strung by a web of ropes to a leaning obelisk, the emperor's latest gift to the temple complex of Cimarel? I don't know. All these consonants strung together. It's difficult to know how to pronounce them sometimes. But he's following this man through this market, and he loses him, but we do find out who this guy is later in the chapter. Now, Esmenet and Sarcellus, it was kind of weird, because it appears as if their relationship has developed, right? So he saved her from the kids and the people who were stoning her, and they, I guess, hooked up or something. Because he's professing his love. We know it's not really him, though, right? Because it's called the thing that calls himself Sarcellus or Sarcellus. But he's constantly trying to convince her of his own love, right? Or the lack of Acamian's love, when he says, he doesn't love you. You know that. Not really. His interest in her was nothing short of ravenous, as though he found her tawdry life as exotic as she found his. Ever since I can remember, he had confided in her, I've been drawn to the vulgar, to the poor, to those who provide the fat upon which my kind lives. He does not have game. He does not have much game with words like that. This is why I cherish your company so. To live a life like yours is one thing, but to be able to speak it, to share it, is another thing altogether. This is why I'm your devotee, Esme, your pupil. So now he's kind of simping on her. I don't know what's going on. But again, he's I guess, possessed by something. Which, I guess we'll find out exactly who this person is, because I can't remember if that name was mentioned earlier in the book or not. But despite his gallantry, he often spoke to her the way a herdsman would use his crook, continually correcting her when her thoughts strayed. So on one hand, he acts like he's really into her and loving her and supportive, but then on the other hand, he's kind of controlling. She found herself feeling something she could not describe, though, at least not at first, something she had never felt before, and she felt it more in his arms than anywhere else. Days passed before she understood. She felt safe, so finally she felt safe, which is ironic considering he's some kind of demon thing. And then we switch POVs, we get into his perspective, which illuminates everything, more or less. On his knees, the Knight Commander saw a tear lingering on her upper lip. A miniature replica of the fire glittered within it. He blinked, glimpsed himself fucking the mouth of her severed head. Wow, that's a way to, to turn a scene, right? It's funny because I was reading this first paragraph, this very, very short paragraph, and then that one hit me, and I'm like, okay, Bakker, I see what you're doing there. The thing called Sarcellus smiled. To simply be where the architect had been, to thrust where he had thrusted. It had once humbled and engorged to plunge into a furnace stoked by the old father. I don't really know what any of these people are, or the architect or the old father. I don't believe, or I don't remember if they've been mentioned or not. But this scene is really weird. So the thing that is Sarcellus. Somebody let me know. Is it a hard C, a K, or is it a C, or a C? Sussy. Anyway, there was a flutter of wings and a dry click as a crow alighted on the table. This is not a crow. This is not a crow, though. A bald human head rolled on its neck as though working out kinks. Soon, Mangi. Soon. So this is the name of the character, Mangi, something like that. There's an umlaut in there. There's a lot of, I don't know. Again, some of these are difficult to pronounce. Drusus Akamian spotted Gaortha following him. So Gaortha is this shapeshifter guy, whoever that is. The one who is trying to get away from him in the market. But the thing about this scene, though, the guy's like super horny. He's, you know, pleasuring himself to a degree, but then he's asking for the permission from this Synthes, right? This Raven thing. I don't know. It's really weird. I remember some people out there were talking about in the comments that they wish that that he wouldn't always talk about phalluses. And this is definitely a phallic chapter. So, but he's almost on the cusp, right? It feels like, and then this bird like touches his chest with his wing, and he's about ready to explode essentially, and then his light bleeds from his eyes. How I hate this world! Show me, Mangi. Show me your true face. And yeah, and then we pretty much end the chapter more or less, which is going to bring us to part 4 of the Warrior. So this chapter. You know, it started off kind of, I don't know, I was a little bored in the beginning of the chapter, but then we got to Sarcellus and Esmenet, and it felt like there was just a passage of time that I wasn't privy to in terms of how the relationship is developing or how she's feeling toward him. But again, I don't know if that's her sensing this creature that's inside him or something else. But then we get a look inside his head, kind of, oh yeah, I came in, of course, too, tracking this mysterious figure in the market. But then we get a really weird ending to a scene where this guy is just, you know, he's bearing it for all. This Raven, this Synthes comes in and he's, you know, taking care of business or really trying to take care of business or hoping he can take care of business with himself. And I don't know, it's weird. Things are developing. I feel like we're definitely heading toward the end, which is kind of cool. We're seeing all of these, we're seeing all of these threads start to come together. So, yeah, interesting part. I was hoping there'd be a little bit more Akamian, a little bit more Esmenet, because, again, those are my 2 favorite characters by far. We'll see where it goes in the next chapter, so I will see you then in the next video.